Farah. I'm 27 years old. I'm Libyan, and I've graduated from medical school. And I'm currently doing my master's. Well, I just completed it. So that in prenatal genetics and fetal medicine.
And if in the UK.
Yeah. And yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Not in an investigative way, just whatever reason that comes to your mind. Why are you here, and how did you hear about the podcast, essentially? Because we don't know each other. Like, we met very recently, but for a very good reason. Yeah.
Okay, so one of my friends posted about the podcast and
Twitter, Instagram.
Instagram. And so what he said was that he was really inspired by the podcast, and I was like, And recently I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, so I was like, let me check this. And I did, and the first, that was the episode that was with Nasr Al-Hadi, and it really got me, the way that both of you were talking, how that you had issues and then you got back together and decided, even like years had passed.
As business partners, got back together in a relationship.
No, it's just, it's the human about it that sort of really touched me. And how both of you are fathers and how connected you are to that, and that, like, to see Libyans doing that really sort of got me. I was like, okay, there are Libyans out there.
You want to figure out who are these weirdos and what are they doing with their lives, basically. Thank you for plugging episode 2. It's really nice of you. It's amazing. I honestly didn't know that's going to affect people that much. Like, my sort of inspiration to do it was that true, genuine feeling of, how could you start a new chapter? How do you sort of remedy the wrongs that caused by you or anybody in that sense, generally. I'm glad you're here. And then just to continue on shortly, we sort of connected and you sent me a lovely message that I didn't know how to respond to properly. And the interest for me is the speciality which you're doing, sort of prenatal medicine, genetics, the fact that you're achieving, is it scholar?
Scholarship, or the scholar.
So it's, and at the same time, it's annoying to say, but you're a girl. And if you look at the Instagram specifically, my profile, it's all full of dudes. It's getting very ridiculous looking. And my wife constantly says my gender balance is not enough. It's actually 0, in fact. I'm excited to have you here, Yanni. So we both have good reasons to do this. So your reasoning is like you have enjoyed the type of conversations that took place, but is that reason enough to be part of it, or do you have another reason to be here and be featured in a episode?
Also, for me, being able to speak about certain things I've been through, it takes quite a lot. So yes. I think it's a big step to be able to open up and talk about lots of things that,
So you have lots of things. You don't have just one thing.
Yeah, they're quite a lot.
For sure. So you briefly talked about yourself and what you do. But if you want to talk, sort of to give a background, because when people hear a speak a certain way, a certain language, there's a lot of assumptions on your experience. Because mentally we fill in a gap of information of someone's profile based on the 2 sentences they said, based on the way they look or move around, all of that. So your experience will probably shock some people because, it might not be the idea in their head based on what they've heard so far. So if you fill in the gap of you, family, a bit of journey briefly, like, family, background, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm from a family of, so my parents, and I have one sister. I'm the eldest sister. I grew up here in London. I was born here. I grew up here. Then we moved back to Libya.
How old are you when you moved back?
I was around 10 years old. And then I've been in Libya since. It was a complete sort of transformation going back and at that age where you're just like rebelling against everything. And but surprisingly, I got along. I think it was harder for my sister, which was younger, but I managed to sort of get used to.
And no language issues at 10? Like, did you speak Libyan fluently when you went, or did you have to learn it from scratch while you're there?
It wasn't fluent, but we went to Libyan school. So I used to go to 2 schools here, and then even when I moved back, it was the struggle of having to keep my English well in that sort of environment, and then doing Libyan school was like the more important. So it's kind of switched from being full-time like English school and then just once a week Libyan school to full-time Libyan school and then 3 times a week English school. So but I guess like at the time it was probably really tough for a child to go through all that, but now looking back at it, I'm really grateful that I was able to do that.
What value does it have to be bilingual and for your journey looking back? Like, I mean, a lot of it is obvious, but I'm sure you can you can say something that kind of gives it more light personally for you.
Personally, there are so many, I guess, opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I let's say didn't speak English. Also university and going to medical school with that really strengthens your capacity, basically being able to speak English, and because you study in English and lots of people struggle when they get into medical school not knowing how to deal with this sort of, they're learning new things and in the same time learning a new language. So that made things so much easier for me. Also other things related to work and how things sort of developed in Libya after the revolution, and you know, the whole international community that opened and that gave me opportunities. Also programs that I got into, like the MIPI program in the US, and then
what is that?
It's an exchange program for students. It's called the Student Leader Program.
What does MEPI stand for?
So it's the Middle Eastern Program Initiative. So that's it's the Student Leader Program is led by the MIPI.
Is it like a visit to explore certain things? Is it a workshop?
Yeah,
is it
so it's a
training?
visit. So it's like an exchange program for 6 weeks where you visit the US, you get placed in a certain university with lots of other people from the Middle East and North Africa, so all the MENA region.
And the requirement is?
So one of the main requirements is having good English and being able to express yourself in English well. So the program is mainly about civic education, advocacy, democracy, which it's part of what I do as like civil society. I forgot to mention in the beginning, like I'm a civil society activist. So
it's fine. You probably lost a lot of fans right now because of those 2 words.
Yeah,
they don't get good credit, but you'll have a loyal fan base that are in the field themselves. But there's one thing I'm really interested in, and kind of got to my attention when we were chatting the other day to prep for this. This is all prepared, by the way. It's not freestyled. Everything's scripted. Make sure you read your script.
Yeah.
But parts of it is scripted, planned, not really. Have you always had a goal? Medical field or studying outside or becoming something, or you're the kind of person that you're like, okay, I need to play my opportunities, I need to get here to get there and then see what happens, or were you just good, smart at everything and things kind of fall into place? So these are like 3 random options.
I don't think it's one of the options, or it's a combination of so many things. So let's say I was good at school, and I think partly is my parents really like pushed hard. They're they're like that. They, you know, you need to be on top of your game. And then it became a natural thing. It's not without them saying anything. It's just the way I got used to always wanting to be on top of everything.
Yeah.
And then in like sort of ثانوي, I really like you had to pick, you know, the way in Libya you need to do علوم حياة, علوم هندسية, that kind of, and so it's quite early on when you need to pick تالتة إعدادي and you need to move into that phase. And I'm like, and the only thing I really enjoyed so much was biology and sciences, and I was like, okay, I want to do علوم حياة. And even at that point my parents were against it.
And you mentioned there both, or at least one of them, is in the medical field.
Yeah, my mom is a doctor, so she was quite against. She was like, that's a long way, it's going to take forever. You'd rather take something where you can, not easier, but you can get to your goals quicker. But I was like, but I don't enjoy anything else, this is what I like. So that we were very like freedom sort of whatever, they say their opinion, but the decision is yours at the end of the day.
Is that something they thought to you from the beginning, or because you're strong-willed and, I don't want to say stubborn, like you know what you want, you push back?
No, I think it's just the way our house sort of
you have a democratic system in the house. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's like, you know your options. Okay, we can discuss, but decisions, like you make them. It's your thing.
So there is no stress at home. Like home, you can share, you can decide, you can think out loud. You don't feel like the tension inside.
No, like never. I think it's just the way we grew up. It was always a matter of discussion, and I think there are points now where. It was mainly my father who he was very onto this, like everything we like since a young age, where I think even when I grew up I spoke quite quick, and my mom is like, that's all because of your dad. You know, whenever something happens, it's just like like this whole open discussion kind of thing. When she wants something, it's just like,
as an example of that, like what's something that annoys her and happens regularly?
Well, I don't know, certain things that we're trying to do something, and she has she has a certain opinion about like what to do, and me and my sister would want to go into discussion about it, and she's just like, no.
But you win at the end, or there's a vote even with her? Yani?
Sorry?
Do you always win at the end, or there's a vote with her?
No, we try to find a common ground most of the time,
I have to talk to her. I mean, you sound really nice and peaceful, but I'm not sure. I need to verify these facts with your mom.
I think you should.
So you've managed well with all the opportunities coming, but there's a lot of hard work. يعني زي ما قلتي مدرستين، مدرسة في العشية، لغات مختلفة, lots of things يعني to do. وفي نفس الوقت something that you said you're struggling with here, like throughout your life, let's say growing up, teenage, moving on, you didn't just have المدرسة. يعني عندك activities تانية، نشاطات أخرى اللي هي whether it's activism مؤخرا ولا participating in different things. This whole notion of if you're busy, you're not stressed. If you're busy, you get a lot of things done, which is at first is hard to digest. It's like يعني الناس كلها في الجامعة اللي نعرفهم، حتى يعني في فترات أنا it's always stressful. يعني even if you have nothing else, you're not even working, the stress of like تعب وبusy امتحانات, all of that noise is constant. And you and your bigger network you probably all you hear is complaints. Where in your space you're like, no, I feel weird if I'm not busy enough. I don't get things done if I'm not busy with a variety of activities. How does that really work now and before?
I think it's just the pressure of having something else other than studying that was always there, that kept pushing me to do better in my studies. So I know that to get this like amount of studying done, I have this certain amount of time. And if it's, normally we have more time.
Yeah.
And when you have that, you just sit around doing nothing and like, oh no, I still have time.
This was when you start overstressing, overthinking, and start building the complaints.
Exactly. But you don't do anything. But while in my case, I always tried to have something else going on for me. So before the revolution, it was we used to do activities in the university. We had like a debate club. We do bake sales, you know, that kind of thing. And then and also a science club kind of lab stuff, because it was still like first year, and then second year the revolution happened, and there's so much more to do in terms of you know, a whole new world opened up of opportunities, of volunteering. So I always had something on the side, and that always made me want to do more. So to do more, I'd have to sort of study more, and in order to have more time to do the extra bit.
Definitely. If you take me to that period, maybe like a few vivid days من الثورة يعني, the activities you've done, the mood in your house, الناس اللي تعرفيهم, الحاجات اللي جذبت انظارك, if you're basically painting a picture, because other than the 10 minutes on video that I'm going to put, there'll be a lack of images for people listening to audio. If you paint 2011 حسب the way you lived it يعني as فرح.
Okay. So 2011 was quite a tough year for me personally at home, because it had been a few months since my father got sick at that time, and he had a stroke at the beginning, and that was quite shocking for all of us, and because he's always this strong man that's always like present, and it was a bit devastating. So there was that period where I just didn't want to see him in that state. So it was Thawra in the same time, and we're all excited about that, and I didn't want to be at home to not go through that. So I was out all of the time, whatever there is, like في البداية مظاهرات المحكمة, all those days, and I was there. And then they started, you know, when things started to sort of, okay, let's start doing things. There was first aid courses that they did for like Thawar. We did it in university. I used to attend that, like sort of organize, teach sometimes, and I was so excited. I felt like I was doing something.
How old are you back then?
It was second year. I think I was 19. Yeah, probably 19.
It's very exciting times to actually witness the whole change. And I always thought of it. Yeah, I can't remember how old I was, but I'm much older than you. But obviously, the excitement would be a lot less. Yeah, because for you guys, this is it. This is like the new beginning. يعني حتى في الجامعة. يعني like year 1, 2. يعني.
Yeah, it was my second year, and it was just like you're feeling the start of the new era. Like, yes, this is you know, this is what we've been waiting for this whole time, and especially like from my family's perspective, we're a very against family. That was, you know, it meant a big thing for us,
and specifically to your dad as well.
Yeah, because my dad was in prison like for 18 years. That was before I was born. But it meant a big thing that, you know.
Just to clarify as much as you could, in prison for what? So
so for nothing, literally, it was nothing. So Ayyam Ammar, like anyone who was against him used to just taken and just put in prison. So that's what happened, and there was no muhakama, there was no nothing. It was just like, okay, this person is not happy with my opinions, let me just get rid of him. What I know is that because my dad was in the army, like a convocation, and he was rutba a'la min Muammar, and so they had personal sort of conflicting, even before Muammar like did his cope. And then, so I think once he was in power, he wanted to get rid of everyone who had a slight, disagreement with him. And even at that time, my dad wasn't even based in Libya. He was في الخارجية. So once he came back for some work related thing, he was so it was a short visit, and he was just here to do something and go back. And then
so 2011 came, things were moving, you're out, super active, exploring many things, maybe seeing Benghazi in a different light for the very first time. كنت تحكي لي تطلعوا فترة طويلة, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of planning. Talk to me شوية about that, and at the same time your dad, your relationship, you're very close as well.
I think so at that period there was so much going on. There was volunteering, there was I worked with Handicap International, which was an organization that wanted to do a lot of awareness about explosive objects. So that was like full time. I started like volunteering with them, and then and also because of how close I was to my dad. I think it's a thing with girls and their fathers in general. It's I'm sure you
Yes, I'd like to keep that relationship secret. My wife would be a bit jealous, but no, yeah, it is a thing, and it's a thing that I saw like throughout many years with my dad and my sisters.
Yeah,
and it is something special.
It is. It's completely different to the relationship I have with my mom.
And you're the oldest. You guys are super, in a unique position always.
Yeah, and also like my name, he named me like Farah because I'm like Awal Farah, kind of. So it's we have that bond, and just I didn't want to be at home. I just couldn't bear seeing him not well, and so that was the avoiding, and yeah, it was quite tough, and in the same time, feeling that I'm his daughter with everything he has been through, that I had to be doing something. I had to be part of this revolution. I had to participate. I had to, there was this energy in me that, I can't sit around.
And you've seen him at least through his eyes, that he's proud, or he's
he was happy.
Excited.
Yeah, he was. You can tell, like, he wasn't able to express, like, in speech, but he was happy. He used to go to, like, his friends would pick him up. They'd take him to the demonstrations. He'd have all the, like, the flag things, and he was happy, I think. And I'm, in a way, I'm glad that he didn't see the rest of this mess. Because anyone who saw just that period was quite happy with just that. And that, 2011, everything was perfect, and yeah.
I mean, there's two things that I can pick up on here, but maybe we'll start with the good one. Is like we are essentially we're a package of memories, right? Like, and experiences. Some of them we have control over, some of them we don't. Some of them we can deal with right away, and some of them take a while to unpack and understand and absorb, because we need time. Man. But in terms of collecting memories, as his last memories were really good, when it comes to Libya, when it comes to potentially the future of it, or the story of it in his head, was a good final chapter, if you may.
Yeah.
But the story always continues. But your story is a continuation of his story, and you are in control and somewhat to a lot of it, and what you collect as memories and what you do as experiences. Like thinking of a concept of home. You're in London now. You're going to be here a while if you decide to, or you can go back. How do you deal with your memories? Like, how do you deal with the good times you wanted to keep? Is it photographs? Is it video? Is it snapshots of things? Is it letters from him? And also, aside from home, your memory of him, like, how do you maintain it? Like, how do you keep him close to you?
I think because as we were talking the other day, and I'm like, just the concept of home in itself is very hard to define. When you say home, is it like the physical house? Is it the place? Is it, it's very hard to define. And like the past, let's say, since 2014 until now, the past 5 years have been, for me, lots of moving around and between places. And the last place that I kind of relate to Baba was our house in Benghazi, and that house carries a lot of memories and his presence. So it's always like, because even that house, like, we built it, it's like every piece of it, he was there making sure, you know how it is, like building a house and just seeing him around that and making sure everything's done right. And like both my parents, they it took them so much to get that up, and then living for there. And so his presence there, and then also here in London, there's so much that I can remember from like being a child, or a house here. Like whenever I feel that, I just go down that road and I like look at our apartment, our school, and then there's so many sort of walking down those streets. You remember all those little details, and also being able to share this like with my sister, just speaking a lot about these little details of like phrases and stuff he used to say that always clings like in our conversation. We're like, oh yeah, Ali Goret Baba, little different things and expressions that he used, and that really are stuck into our sort of daily life, and we try to always keep it alive. Photos is a big thing for us as a family in general, because we used to take so many photos, especially growing up here. It was I think it was more than people that grow up in Libya, let's say, or also I think even to us as a family, it was different when we were here. There was so much taking photos, and then when we went to Libya, it sort of decreased. And that's something that really, when 2014 الحرب اللي صارت في بنغازي, and we had to leave our house, so it was like, how can we keep these behind? We want to take them, and it's so much, and you just stare at stuff and you're like, but نبي ناخذهن معايا, بس I really can't. And that sort of made me realize that it does, you can't really carry stuff. It's just what's in your head.
But in a way, I've been reading this very interesting book called The Art of Making Memories. I didn't mention it to you, did I, last time? So this Danish guy who runs something called the Happiness Institute. This is his second book. The first one is about the art of living happy, I think. I think it's basically a very Danish concept of creating happiness. But anyways, on memories, he quotes this Danish philosopher. Can't remember the name as usual, but feel free to look him up once I put the book. He's like, life is lived forward. Like you constantly look at tomorrow, you look at your future plans and things that you want to achieve. You're always looking up front, ahead. And life, again, is understood backward. Like when you stop, pause, turn around, reflect, analyze, see the things you've done. Not every detail of it, but things that are sort of within your mind that are frustrating you, stressing you out. You need to give it time and sit down and reflect on them. And this seems to be the reason I'm doing the podcast itself, like, because I'm sitting down, listening to you, reflecting with you on your journey and taking the opportunity to reflect on mine. I think obviously the opposite of creating memories or having memories forward is losing and losing things. So this whole theme of loss, and you did lose your father at a key moment, something that is very difficult and challenging, and even though it happened in 2011 itself, right?
Yeah, towards the end. So it was,
it's been many years, but you're still dealing with it. Something is not equivalent to that for me is losing friends. Or I did lose a friend, a dear friend to me, very close to me in high school, and I don't know how to deal with that. I haven't dealt with that, and I'm just simply ignoring it. Another major event in my life is I'm losing touch with certain family for years or a couple of years because of one reason or another. It's another type of loss that you struggle with because you don't know what to do with it. Like, they're here, but they're not here. But in your case, you learned and you're still learning, and you have certain things that you do to cope with that, like dealing with that loss. Like, what do you do and how do you do it? I know it's been many years that you've lost your father, but how do you still deal with it in your mind, in your head? How do you feel about it?
I think in the beginning it took me so much time to process, and to me, even this, being able to speak about this is big for me. Like, I think this is the first time I actually like talk about it to someone I just met recently. So it's quite hard. Like, lots of people go on knowing me without knowing that part of my life, because like I've met lots of people since then, and they wouldn't know that element missing in my life, and I think that was part of me dealing with it, is that I don't want to be able to, I don't know if it's dealing with it or avoiding dealing with it. It's just like, okay, I just want to live my life, but pretending that he's still here, being like, okay, I talk about him as if he's still there. There are still certain things that I can't do until now. Like, now I talk about him and be like, Allah yarhamah. Like, that makes it so real for me. And I just, it's not the easiest thing to do. So, but I think this year being away from home has made it slightly easier in terms of accepting, because I think part of me not talking about it and not being able to easily express it is being a girl in Libya isn't the easiest thing in the world. Like, you're just being that makes you so vulnerable in a way.
Probably
like
the most annoying thing I can say right now is like, oh, I know exactly how you feel. Right?
No, you don't. Yeah, well, no.
Sorry, I just had to say it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Yeah, so it's just to show that you can do everything on your own without having that support, even though like Baba always like prepared us in a way. He would always take me to these like public places to, دير أوراق رسمية مش عارف شنو تعالي معي. I'm like, Baba, why are you taking me to this like male dominant
مصلحة الجوازات
جوازات. Yeah, he would be like, no, you have to understand how things work. And yeah, he would take me, to the simplest like شرا خضرة. He would like show me how to pick like خضرة and stuff, and he's like, أنا مش ديما قاعد لكم. He always had that going on, and you need to know how to do these things on your own. So I didn't find myself,
did that make it easier, like to do it, even though, as you said, everywhere you go it's just dudes everywhere basically?
Yeah. It made it easier in terms of I know how to do it, sort of. I've been in the position where it's not completely new to me to be in a place where it's all dudes and I don't know how to do anything. I can get around, but still there's this look that you get, and it's like فيش تديري هنا, ما عندكش حد آخر يدير لك. I'm like, no, I'm doing it on my, like, you get this, and I think it's just the way our society is built. It makes me even more like, yeah, I'm doing it on my own, غصباً عنكم kind of thing. And so it made it a bit easier, but still nothing makes up for, you know, what I've lost. And not, you know, I think even if he was there, I'd be happy to do these things. But knowing that he's there is different. Is like someone's got my back, you know, no matter what. But there was this period where I felt that that never goes away. That I feel that my back is not there, and it's tough. It's tough, and there are lots of like situations. Sometimes, you know, you just go along and life goes, and you find yourself doing these things. But there are times where you're in that male dominant world, and someone really gets to you, like, and they just push on that sort of you know, and that really.
Do you remember a moment?
I remember like when I was, you know, the new passport, and I was trying to get that done, and
الأزرق يعني.
Yeah, the أزرق. Yeah.
ما زال ما عنديش بنك حد يساعدنا في الموضوع. Just kidding يعني.
That was yeah, because I kept on, you know, the way that, you know, ما فيش مواعيد, and you need to keep on like going to places. I was in Tripoli at that time, and I kept on like going to جوازات, and like people would just, there was something like انتي علاش جاية, you know, I'm like, there's, or like when I'd be, something happens to my car,
من حد رسمي لابس بدلة, مش الناس اللي يستنوا.
no حد رسمي, no, yeah, I've been in situations where and or like something happens to my car, and like I need to.
بس للتوضيح, حد رسمي قصد إنه حد يشتغل في مصلحة جوازات نفسها هو اللي يقول لك على الجاية يعني. بس في نفس الوقت ما تفكريش إنه علاش الوضع هذا مش طبيعي يعني. أنت تبي حاجات يعني حتى لو عندك من يسندك وغيرها, هم مشغولين. You can do it. علاش? Why is it واو شيء خيالي إنه you have something تخصك أنت, تبي مصلحة عامة تمشي تديرها تسجدي روحك زي العادي يعني. هذا هو المفروض وضع طبيعي.
Yeah, you think so. You think that it's normal. إن عادي بنت تمشي مصلحة تديرها, مش معناها إن هي ما عندهاش حد. But in our society that's not the case. إن ما فيش بنت تمشي بروحها تدير الحاجات like, you know, جوازات ولا.
وأنت تتكلم على 2012 2013.
Yeah, like
صح.
that sort of. Yeah, even up until now, like it's the same situation.
أنت يوم تمشيتي تجددي؟
Oh, it was I think 2014. أزرق, yeah. Yeah.
مؤخرا يعني جديدة.
Yeah, it was quite recent.
A lot needs to change يعني. On thinking of change and on a bigger scale, حاجة لها علاقة بتخصصك أنت. وهذا السبب الكبير اللي أنا يعني تحمست أول ما بعثت لي مسج وقعدنا نهدرزوا في شنو المواضيع اللي يمكن نستكشفوها يعني واللي تهم الناس. يعني I'm going to repeat it in English يعني the ideas that we wanted to explore to see what could benefit people to hear, and the things you want to put out there in the world. Maybe someone is on the same path that would like to contribute or help you. Thinking of Farah's biggest goal in terms of your career or a continuation of your academic journey. What is that? What is the one thing you'd love to change or be part of in the next 10 years?
Definitely changing the outlook and how things are in terms of the healthcare system in Libya. And when I picked to study prenatal genetics and fetal medicine, that was the main like goal that I had in my head, was to prevent so many things that are happening right now due to lack of that's, you know, very simple things in our healthcare system that could help lots of people.
لما تقولي primary care يعني باش نفصلوا فيها, what does that mean?
Okay, so in a healthcare system there's.
Did you say primary care or primary medicine?
No, primary healthcare.
Healthcare.
Yeah, so there's primary, secondary and tertiary, and then the primary would be as like in the UK here, there's a system where if you get sick, you go to your GP, and that's the you don't sort of load the tertiary care system with simple things. So simple things that could be solved would just be done through that, and then they're done like through clinics and polyclinics and so on. That's how a normal system would, and then if it's serious and then a general practitioner can't solve it, you'd be referred, and then that's how it develops. But in Libya that doesn't exist. I think it was supposed to be part of the system, but it just...
And the change you want to affect, is it policy and it also has to do with activism, or is it you starting a project? يعني شنو نوع التغيير اللي هو انت حتديريه in terms of action فرح حتديرها يعني؟
So the initial idea was to sort of get involved in something. When I first thought of what to study next is that I wanted to be able to combine what I've done in studying medicine and in the same time my work in civil society and advocating for change and reform and so on. So I was like, I want something that could combine both, where I can work on sort of lobbying and changing how things are and work on reforming the healthcare sector. And in the same time it affects the primary healthcare system, because that's where it plays in, what I've studied that has to do with prenatal testing and so on, and that could prevent so much diseases that could happen, and that's considered part of the primary healthcare. So,
and it's to frequency you work in very closely, and in Libya you are closely connected, and you're still an activist obviously, and you've done lobbying, you've worked with certain ministries, you went to schools. فالموجة هذه you understand well, تعرفي كيف الناس هذه تفكر وتخدم. And it's part of the excitement around this topic for me. لما نسمع prenatal medicine / genetics, I always feel like it's something complex, like you're dealing with. لما تخرجت السنة الأخيرة, the excitement around the genome project, the collecting of data and decoding it was like peak. يعني معظم professors معنا احنا in my engineering department, electrical and computer, they will pay you extra just to sit around and try to be part of this project. It was the fascinating, most exciting thing. 2006, 2007, even maybe a bit before it. يعني. And a lot of my friends who are enthusiastic about this and betterment of health are constantly watching documentaries to find out, like, what could you do? Yeah, I mean, there is stuff that is beyond crazy imaginative that are doing to animals, for example, to something as ridiculous as someone wants to code a fluorescent dog, because there are certain animals that have fluorescent texture, skin, I don't know what it's called, birds, حاجات زي هذه. Someone is working hard to manipulate the genes and codings of a dog to make a dog fluorescent. Obviously, this is like far-fetched. There are other uses that are much more immediate and beneficial, as preventing disease or looking at conditions in advance. وهذه الاريا بتاعك انت اللي هي prenatal, which is يعني before a baby's born, right?
Exactly.
This is what it is. Like, what have you learned and what fascinates you within this that could be implemented Libya or حتى on a global scale?
So the scale is very wide when you speak about genetics and genomes and all that. But if we're trying to like focus more on the prenatal aspect of things, when I like studied here and I've like attended lots of clinics and how things work in the system here, there are things that are very simple that could be done, and that they, like, for instance, there's something called non-invasive prenatal testing, and it's a very simple blood test that they would basically find the fetal DNA, which is like the baby's DNA in the mother, through her blood, and then they would test it and see if there are certain diseases like trisomies, Down syndrome, and other. I don't want to get so technical, but there are simple things that
بس حاجات common وممكن تأثر في حياة الطفل وحياة العائلة نفسها. Like both sort of affects the baby and the family that are
expecting.
Would you say widespread or common?
In Libya, like I've seen it quite a lot. for instance, Down syndrome, it's very, very common. But there is a certain cutoff. Even here, studying here, ethics is a big thing, and they consider it, and they look at different religions and how they would deal with an issue.
And they deal specifically حسب الديانة المريض نفسها.
Exactly,
يعني
and they're completely considerate of.
They're aware as well.
Of what everyone's background is, and how to even like convey the news, and how they would deal with it, and they would respect their decisions,
and also how considerate the system is, that your micro belief as a family is respected. يعني it's not like الحكومة قررت كلكم you have to do this. It's not like a 80s scenario of like your opinion or feelings don't matter on something that is so immediate to your life. And aside from knowing what the issues are, like Down syndrome or any other condition, there are options to families to decide on whether that's something to go ahead with or that's something to treat. At the same time, people's beliefs are respected. Even here, you mentioned, right? Like, so it's like in what format and how do people go about it? That kind of thing.
So it's different. It really depends on the family, what their beliefs are, how they would decide to go about it. And even as I said, like the ethics part of things when we were studying, that they're even like they would see how different religions deal with it, and like even in Sharia law, they know that this is how, like there's a cutoff time. I think it's around 2 months, and that's acceptable. So they know that this is fine for like people who are like Muslims to abort, or at a certain within that time.
That's all in all hospitals in the UK, basically.
Yeah.
So while working there, you got exposed to the hospitals, certain conditions, patients, this prenatal thing specifically because you were practicing there. And none of this is applied. There is no family planning aspect. There is no analysis. There is no testing. This conversation isn't there.
No, it doesn't happen
100%?
at all. 100%.
All hospitals all over the country.
Yeah. Wow. Not at all. They just randomly get pregnant. Like literally, that's how it works. Unless the only time that doesn't happen is if people have difficulties conceiving, and then at that point they would go to like IVF treatment or.
In general hospitals or private?
No, privately. That doesn't exist in public hospitals. And then at that time they know, okay, yeah, we're getting pregnant. But
so the only time people are able to be active with the whole pregnancy process is when there is a major problem. Then they go to private route, and then definitely. I'm gonna take a little detour, بعدين نرجع ل London, next phase. What are you gonna do for your future? This block يعني in your life, career path, that kind of thing. Think about it in your head. بس السؤال توا in the most simple way, in terms of outlined items, أول 60 دقيقة من يومك أول مطمودي, what do you do? What's your routine?
So I'm definitely not a morning person.
Shocking.
Yeah, I find it very hard sometimes to just get up, and like that alarm goes off and I'm like, oh, I'm just like, I want a bit more. So, and it's always like the little bit more that you want, and
you've been so inspiring so far, Farah. I think you're gonna completely destroy it, but carry on.
The ugly truth.
Yeah. No, full honesty. Keep going. It's working for you.
Yeah, I don't like it, and so I find it difficult waking up, and then I like it to be really quiet, and I'd rather not have anyone talk to me, and then that's perfect, until I've had my coffee, then you can start speaking to me. So this year of living alone has been amazing.
I sympathize on that noise. I think it's DNA related, because my parents used to tell me I used to cry a lot because of my ears. So I guess I needed some quietness throughout life, and then definitely the first early hours of waking up.
Yeah. So back home, I don't have the option of having that always.
So up, no talking, coffee.
Coffee, and then I sort of can start on with my day. I'd rather it's quite hard to not check your phone. I really don't want to, because I don't want to see what's there. You know, whatever it is, just let it be. And I just
so most days you succeed getting out of the house not checking.
I wouldn't check it like when I first wake up, but like I get to a point where maybe when I'm having my coffee, that let me see, but I try not to. Yeah,
that's nice. Boom, 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 boom. It's more or less the same for me. Like what makes a good morning for me differently is definitely no phone starting, waking up, a lot of exercising, stretching, because I'm getting back to running these days. That helps a lot. It almost wakes up all of my body. The biggest struggle at the moment, because we're in winter, حتى رغم إنها تغيرت الساعة, the hour we lost the daylight saving time, it still feels very dark when you wake up. عرفتي, like your body needs an extra boost of motivation, because الطي ماليش في فترة طالعة, وحتى when you wake up is it daytime, is it nighttime, وما في شمس أصلا يعني. تبي عزيمة رهيبة to actually get up in the morning. So I completely sympathize with you.
The days that I go to the hospital, I need to be up at 6. So that's like still dark. Like, what am I doing?
That's فكرتني بصديق عايش في السويد فترة طويلة, قال لي اللي تشكو من العيشة في لندن, قال لي it's heaven compared to Sweden, because you barely see daylight and the cold is beyond.
There's another thing I do which like really sort of makes my day. It's some people find it a bit too much, but I call my mom. That's like the first, like when I'm out of the house, like on my way, I have to call my mom. And if I don't get through to her, like it really sort of kind of, you know, I'm like, I just wanted to hear your voice in the morning. Yeah, just like نطمن عليها, make sure everything's fine.
Quick call, yeah.
Yeah, just a quick call. Yeah, I'm on my way, and she'd be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and this. It's just like, you know, just a few minutes catch up, and yeah, it
nice.
Sets me off.
I need to incorporate that. I guess when you get older, you minimize a lot of that. And I do it once a week. But I think it's nice. It's nice to hear the voice. It makes you feel that the world is safe. Things are normal.Ings are standard.
In a way, yeah. Like it's like everything's in, not really, because like everything changes. Everything's not in place. But you know that you've got that sort of that amen
nice
feeling.
Safety. Yeah. I'm going to give you one question. I haven't given that opportunity to anyone. Although people... مش عارف, عماد الحلقة اللي فاتت يمكن سألني سؤال. Ask me a question about anything, generally, because I've been hammering you with questions, and this is supposed to be a conversation.
There's something I'm curious about, but I'm not sure if you're comfortable answering or not.
من أولها كيف راح ربك يستر يعني. تفضلي.
It's just in general, like I always like asking this question. How did you meet your wife?
Ooh. She's definitely going to like this. We met through work, actually, yeah. At the time, I was working in a production company of my own. نفسها الشركة مع نصر في إنتاج طرابلس. Somehow, some way, someone recommended us and me specifically to do a big job for them. And she was heading Lawyers for Justice in Libya. And they had this really, really very interesting, probably one of the most interesting projects relevant to human rights in Libya, possibly the region, اسمه دستوري, which at the time was a silly, crazy idea for me. يعني تخيلي 2012, things are still kind of settling. They wanted to do a constitutional awareness tour, meeting people في hospitals, في streets, في المدارس, أطفال. There's a huge section for that to make simple rights really relevant to kids in a very engaging, interactive way. The idea is for us as a production company to document that journey, the conversation with people, so it's elevated. It's not just happening locally. It might be taken to a national level. So I met her. Maybe if you meet her, I'll give her. She'll tell you the details of what I was like and what I was wearing. She still picks on that up until today because she didn't think I looked professional enough. I was very relaxed. And في المكتب بس something about her sparked me, like someone that actually is super excited about making change, someone that, I don't know, when you meet someone and they're like a breath of fresh air and so inspiring. A bit of a cliche because her name is Ilham as well. But I think that the tipping point in all of this is spending time together, getting to know each other, discovering that we are so different, yet the change that we want to make, the ideas that we want to implement are complementing each other, you know? Like she's a lawyer, someone who's supposedly in the creative field. She obviously, there's a lot of clashes into how we do things, but the things we believe in are like a match. And when you spend a lot of time working with someone or traveling with someone, it clicks, right? Like it's not it's not hypothetical, you know. Do we blend together? Do we work together? Like you see it, and we saw each other doing things and saying things that made it all more making sense, you know. Like it was a mature falling in love, like into place. It's not a. You should probably hate this part. There's a lot of romance, but the romance wasn't in the like sparkles of like, you know, I just met this person or I just met this. There is that, but there's the maturity of like, does this work?
Yeah, the realistic.
Does this have life? Is this sort of a real thing beyond the feeling, you know? So there was a combination of the two for me. That's why it was like, yes, yeah. And lucky she said yes as well. I think that's as much as I want to share. That's good nice question, by the way. Yeah.
It's always when you see like successful marriages and stuff, you think, okay, what got these two together? Or like as a person, I just really enjoy knowing how, you know, things fall into place.
Yeah.
And I always think it is a combination of, you know, the sort of the heart and the head and getting together. It's not just like, oh yeah, you know, all these like sparks and you know.
Yeah, and it's in a scenario where you don't really think, oh, this could happen, because a lot of us think, oh, it's in school or university or in a workplace where you see each other constantly. And, you know, there's other ways and other stories that take place. I don't know. It's just leaving yourself to be open to the ideas, but it's none of this was forced. It was like very organic, natural, and in a way meant to be. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
On that, I think we've covered quite a bit in a way that I'm really interested in tying together, because it's all orientated around family, memories, love, loss that could take place. How do you deal with it? I'm interested in this phase of your life. Like, you've been here for a year, you've done the Achieving, it's almost finishing, I think, kind of.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, there's medicine, there's practice. What is the next phase for Farah? And yeah, what's the next phase? And then we can build on that. Like, what are you looking forward to? Like 2020, let's say. No, we're not looking super far. A couple of months.
Well, I guess I've got some tough decisions to make in terms of like career and as I said, like the course I've done has opened so many doors, and now it's a question of which one do I want to take, and also the whole clinical versus academic. So I either move into like more research and or work on my clinical side of things and start practicing, and so a lot of decisions. They're quite tough. I still haven't quite just decided to do one specific thing, not the other. I'm still thinking about it. But it's nice to have options, I guess. At times it's a bit annoying. You're like, I wish I just had one door open in front of me, but then I think you're just being a bit unrealistic when you say, you know, I wish it was one thing, but
You're just looking at the opportunities and how to fit them into your bigger goal.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. So
in this phase in you, it's better for you to stay here, gain more knowledge, sort of make that base solid, get a bit of experience looking into practice as well, right? Because you're not practicing, you're not allowed yet. So.
For any international graduate here in the UK, they have to take to be GMC registered, and then that involves taking an exam. So it's actually a two-part exam, and then you have to do that, and then once you're done, you can apply, and it goes on. And even surprisingly, even for UK citizens, they have to do it if they're graduated from outside the UK. So
you're looking into that?
I am considering it.
And that if that's done, the next phase is how many years of training or practicing?
So basically, you start off as an senior house officer, which is an SHO, and then you progress. It's like a ladder that that like rutabiki kind of thing. But you're a doctor, and like once you start, it's not like you're still, but you're training in the specialty. So it's 4 to 5 years, depending on like subspecializing and all that.
So for those that are very excited to hear about the experience and they want to learn about how to do certain things, what's the best way to reach you? What are the things that you like to help people with? What topics are...
Okay, so first of all, like achieving, I think that's a big aspect of things, like for me and how I got this and being here in the UK.
So you have sort of insider tips of how to apply, how to get it. It
was hard work, and people just think it's sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I can. No, it's a hard application, it's a process. You need to wait and تحرق الدم شوية, because lots of people, oh yeah, حصلت منها ومشت, that kind of perspective. That
but it's worth it now that you've done it. Is there a real value?
Yeah, definitely it was worth it. There are points where during my course I was like, I'm not sure, is this what I want to do? Did I pick the right course? Because you're limited with achieving. You need to you pick earlier on what you want to do, and you build on that, because you're picking the course, and that's why you're picked initially. So this is what you want to do. And then there are points where you doubt that, but definitely now that I'm done, I can say that it was definitely worth it.
Any last words?
I'm actually happy that I got to do this. It took a lot to be able to open up and talk about so many things that I've spoke about. So
it's my privilege. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.